The surface. Plenty of air to breathe. Clear blue skies. Safety. But where is the fun in that? Beneath the surface, now there is an adventure. It is full of excitement, even danger. There are giants down there, waiting for a visit. Stealthy creatures cloaked within the leafy depths. Hidden surprises in the sand. And creatures that fool the eye. Beneath the surface can be a dangerous place with hungry predators and competition. But there is still beauty. Remnants of a once perfect creation. Hallmarks of the designs of our great creator. It's time for us to explore the depths together. It's time for the underwater adventure. When you hear the word shark, what thoughts come to mind? Teeth? Jaws? Danger? Fear? For some sharks, these thoughts are pretty reasonable. I certainly wouldn't want to cross paths with a hungry great white, a curious tiger shark, or a territorial bull shark. These juvenile scalloped hammerheads weren't interested in eating snorkelers. Could it be that they are the only safe sharks in the ocean? Or are there others? In a small rocky headland in Australia, a few hours south of Sydney, you'd be surprised to know what lurks beneath. In the underwater valley. The ragged-toothed shark. They have a mouth full of sharp teeth and can grow to over 2 meters long. But are they dangerous? Well, like any wild animal with teeth, they can be dangerous, but in general, these sharks pose very little threat to humans. So much so that these sharks happen to be a favourite for scuba divers and snorkelers to swim with. Ragged-toothed sharks, known as grey nurse sharks in Australia, and sand tiger sharks in the US, often gather in large groups in rocky reefs. Usually, these gathering spots are at least a few hundred metres out from the shore, but this valley is on the end of a headland which reaches far out from the beach, so the sharks are quite comfortable coming into this area. For the last few years, they have been spotted swimming in this region in groups of about 30. Ragged-toothed sharks have large, thick grey bodies, which often have some scattered faint dark spots on them. Like most sharks, they have 8 fins. On the underside, they have 2 pectoral fins just past the gills, then 2 pelvic fins, an anal fin, and the large tail fin at the back, also known as the caudal fin. The two fins on top are the dorsal fins. You might not notice all 8 fins on most sharks, but that is just because on other sharks, like hammerheads, the pelvic fins, anal fin and rear dorsal fin are much smaller. Ragged-toothed sharks move surprisingly slowly. This footage is played in real time, and they still look like they are moving in slow motion. Look out, Mr. Snorkeler! Shark incoming! Many sharks have to keep moving to breathe, since they need to pass oxygenated water past their gills. So how do these sharks breathe while moving so slowly? Ragged-toothed sharks use a method called buccal pumping, which means they open and close their mouth to pump water past the gills. You can see the gills moving when they do this. There's a big gulp of oxygenated water. There are other kinds of shark that also like to swim slowly, or even stay still, like the beautiful zebra shark from Kira Reef. A lot of divers call them leopard sharks because of all those spots. This kind of shark is designed differently to those which are always on the move. It has spiracles, small openings just behind the eyes which are used to suck water in and push it out past the gills. This shark is getting the royal treatment, having a rest while blue streak cleaner wrasse and even a remora are cleaning its skin. Living the dream. Here is another shark lying still. It has a very small spiracle under the eye. So far we've seen a shark with a hammerhead, one with ragged teeth, another with leopard spots, and now this Port Jackson shark with horns on its dorsal fins, and even eyebrows on its head. God certainly was very creative with different designs and even different genetic variations within kinds. Another interesting shark that lives in the same Sydney waters as the Port Jackson shark is the blind shark. Hang on a minute, this shark has working eyes. What's going on? The name blind shark was given by fishermen who accidentally reeled these little sharks in. It turns out that they close their eyes when they are out of the water, hence the name blind shark. Blind sharks have barbels that look like whiskers, which help them sense prey among the dense kelp beds and sand. These little sharks usually feed at night, but will occasionally look for a feed during the daytime. This one is on the hunt. Maybe an octopus or crab. Can't quite reach it. They use their pectoral fins like little arms to help navigate tight spots. Strange little sharks indeed. If you thought those sharks were strange, wait till you see this one. The wobbegong. What a cool name. The word wobbegong originated from Indigenous Australians and is thought to mean shaggy beard. Wobbegongs are very common along the coast of Australia and are often found resting during the day near caves and rocks. Occasionally they will have a swim during the daytime, but usually only to find a new spot to rest. Finding a spot to rest isn't always that easy though. How about here? Taken. Any space here? Nope. This patch of seaweed will have to do for now. Some wobbegongs just can't find a spot for themselves and decide to share with other sharks, like this grey carpet shark. Believe it or not, it's a bunk bed. Another carpet shark just underneath. All the resting spots at Kira Reef seem to be taken. What about the Sandbag Hotel at Narranick Reef? Surely there is some room there. Oh no, it's packed in there too. There were 3 in the bed and the little one said, roll over. Maybe the rock wall at the Seaway will have more rooms available. Any space under here? Nope. Now that looks promising. Finally, a place to rest. Sharks can be scary, don't get me wrong. Sometimes they do bite, and can even be deadly. But many shark species actually aren't all that dangerous, and are even quite pleasant to swim with. There aren't many creatures in the sea that move so gracefully through the water like a shark. Every creature, even the ones that can be scary, are worth praising God for. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. After Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, death came into the world, for humans and also the creatures. Smaller creatures are quite vulnerable to bigger ones with a strong appetite, and often become their next meal. But God knew this would happen. So he designed the more vulnerable creatures with defense mechanisms. One such creature is the crab. Crabs are common in rocky areas, but when you are this big, it can be challenging to hide. not fooling anyone behind this rock. Time to go underground. I've got my eye on you. Mud crabs aren't completely defenceless when they can't bury themselves. They have thick, powerful claws and have a vice-like grip. They aren't known to let go easily. Crabs have small frilly appendages in front of their mouth, called maxillipeds. The crab uses these amazing little paddles to eat, groom itself, and even help sense nearby food. What an amazing design feature! Another fairly large crab that lives on the Australian coast is the blue swimmer. Can you see it? Whoa, it's a big one. Those long claws look quite intimidating. No rocks to hide under, but that seaweed might just work. Not a bad spot to go underground. Nah, this spot isn't working. Back on the run. The blue swimmer has one more trick up its sleeve. Crawling isn't the only method of escape. You guessed it, it can swim. Its back two legs are flattened into paddles, which it uses like egg beaters to swim away. While many creatures are protected by their shell, others have another form of protection. This colourful critter is a nudibranch. A nuda what? You heard it right, a nudibranch. The word nudibranch means naked gill, referring to their small external gill appendages. It has two purple horns at the front called rhinophores, and a tuft of white and purple near the tail, which looks like a piece of coral. This little tuft is the set of gills. Bright colours on nudibranchs, like this clown nudibranch, act as a way to tell predators, hey, I'll make you pretty sick if you eat me. So their defense mechanism is simply not being very tasty. Nudibranchs, also known as nudies, come in two main types. Those with a small tuft of gills near the tail, known as dorid nudies. The other type are called aeolid nudies, and are covered in appendages called serrata, like this red-lined nudibranch from the Gold Coast Seaway. Aeolid nudies actually breathe through these appendages, and can use them for defence as well. Believe it or not, when these aeolid nudies eat from things like stinging corals and anemones, they actually reuse the stinging cells in their serrata appendages for their own defence. For these little creatures, you are what you eat. This looks like a sea slug, but is actually a flatworm. These flatworms don't just crawl along the rocks, they can swim. By flapping their wide bodies, they suspend themselves in the water. A full body workout. Looks exhausting. The slimy creatures we've seen so far are all pretty small, less than a finger length, but there are some that grow much, much bigger. The sea hare. What a stonker. The sea hare is about the size of an adult fist and has the perfect camouflage to blend in with the algae-covered rocks. But what is this? It seems to be alive, but it isn't a sea slug. A sea anemone. This one retracts its tentacles by wrapping itself in its outer protective layer when approached. Nothing to see here. How about this? Looks just like a frilly piece of seaweed. Wait for it. That's not seaweed, it's a tube worm. It draws in its vulnerable tentacles when it senses large nearby objects, like my gloved finger. This little orange tube worm retreats in about 25 milliseconds, quicker than the blink of an eye. Tentacles are a common feature in many sea creatures, but no creature has tentacles quite as spectacular as the jellyfish. Jellyfish generally have a non-stinging top called a bell, which sort of looks like a transparent round tablecloth. Pulsing this bell is the main way they can control where they swim. But for the most part, jellyfish just get pushed around by the sea currents and winds. Tentacles drape down from the centre of the bell and are loaded with tiny stingers which help it catch small fish to digest. Looks like this one has a few catches already. Wait, hang on. Those fish aren't dead. What's going on here? Just like clownfish can live safely inside anemones, these special tiny silverfish are protected from the stingers and call the jellyfish tentacles their safe home. Any predatory fish would think twice before navigating through the deadly stingers to catch one of these little fish. The perfect safe house. Another jellyfish brought in by the winds and currents at the Gold Coast Seaway is the sea nettle jellyfish. They don't have quite as many tentacles as the lion's mane, but they are incredibly long and the stingers can pack a punch. What makes these such good hunters is that their longest tentacles are almost invisible in the water, so zooplankton and small fish can easily get caught. Problem is, not all fish are food for these jellyfish. Here comes trouble. Diamond fish are tough little scavengers and will try just about anything from a meal, even jellyfish tentacles. Looks like a noodle feast for these tough little fish. Unfortunately for this jellyfish, it was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Jellyfish are strange creatures, but this last jelly is stranger still. It technically isn't even a true jellyfish. The comb jelly has tiny little hairs, also known as combs, which it flaps quickly to swim in the water. These tiny transparent combs actually diffract sunlight into all the colours of the rainbow as they move. This alien-like creature looks like it belongs on another planet. even though our world has become full of danger since the fall of Adam and Eve, God planned ahead by designing clever defense mechanisms in creatures to sustain our ecosystems. Just as these creatures have forms of protection, God offers to protect us in a fallen and broken world. And more than that, God offers us forgiveness and salvation through Jesus, so we can spend eternity with Him in a new world, without sin and without death. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from Him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my salvation and my glory. My mighty rock, my refuge is God. In the vast wide ocean, sometimes it can feel quite spacious, even a bit empty. The deep blue stretches out for miles and miles without a creature in sight. But that isn't always the case. Sometimes all you can see is fish. Many fish live in large schools, often more numerous than one can count. The most common schooling fish on the east coast of Australia are the yellow-tailed scad, also known as yakka. When a school of yakka are approached, they simply swim around. Almost feels like swimming with a force field. You might think these fish are only in open ocean, but they can be closer than you'd expect. They've gathered here at the Gold Coast Seaway, a large river entrance. They have come here to feed on small particles in the water, sucking them up like 1,000 little vacuum cleaners. With such large numbers of fish, predators are not far away. But probably more of concern is what comes from above. A cormorant bird, looking for a fishy meal. And down it goes. It tucks its wings in and kicks those little webbed feet to propel itself through the water. They can dive down well below 10 meters depth and often hold their breath for about 30 seconds each dive. Unlike ducks, their feathers do get a bit wet, but that actually helps them be more neutrally buoyant for diving. Scientists have found that a special structure in their feathers helps them dry very quickly, the perfect design for diving and flying. Almost got one. fish are just too fast today. Sticking together in large schools proves to be an effective survival strategy. Many other fish school near the seaway. Nestled within the rocks are black and yellow fish. Take a guess at what these little creatures are called. If you said stripey, you're spot on. Stripies often gather in large numbers in caves, which provide them with hiding places. They can also be found in super shallow water above the rocks, not an easy place for a predator to get to. If they can handle the swell, they are quite safe here. You'd think such vulnerable little fish would be afraid of a person, but they are actually quite inquisitive of the camera. I wonder if they notice their own reflection in the lens. Eastern pomfret are another small fish which school near rocks of the seaway. They're everywhere, schooling in hundreds. A much larger schooling fish are sea mullet. These ones are all about 30 centimetres long. Sea mullet play an important part in estuary ecosystems. To understand this, let's have a look at a smaller estuary. About 40 kilometres south of the Gold Coast Seaway is Cudgeon Creek. Cudgeon Creek is only very small compared to the seaway and much shallower. But a lot goes on under the surface. The sea mullet contribute to keeping the waterways so crystal clear. They go about their business nibbling away on algae growing on the rocks. It is hard to eat the algae without sucking up sand as well, so they simply spit out the sand with each nibble. The mullet's consumption of algae is important for estuary ecosystems as it prevents the algae taking over and producing too many algal blooms. While the adults are cleaning the rocks, the juveniles consume the suspended food particles at the surface, like zooplankton. They truly are the cleaning workhorses of estuaries. With all that cleaning work, you can get a bit dirty. Juvenile diamond fish nibble off dead skin and parasites at cleaning stations along the creek. The mullet line up and drift on the spot, inviting the diamond fish to give them a clean. Each fish in the estuary plays an important part in keeping the ecosystem healthy. Meanwhile, another major cleaning event is about to begin. The fish are gathering. Big flathead, yellowfin brim, stripies, and sergeant majors. Even the pelicans know what is about to come down the chute. Leftover fish scraps from the fishermen send the fish into a feeding frenzy. Before long, only a skeleton is left as they methodically clean the leftovers. You might think all these fish scraps make the creek dirty, but the fish do such a thorough job eating that the waterway stays crystal clear. Anglers regularly clean and gut their catches here. Instead of just throwing the scraps in the bin, they simply toss them down the chute into the water. A fantastic feast for the local pelicans and seagulls, and fish, depending on who gets there first. Of course, too much fishing with things like nets can upset the balance of the ecosystem, but here, most people stick to the fishing limits to ensure it remains a wildlife paradise. The Gold Coast Seaway also has examples of wildlife benefiting from humans, not so much because of fishing scraps, but rather because of structures. To see these, we'll have to take a deep dive. Massive underwater pipes. All sorts of fish gather around the deep pipes because of the shelter and protection they provide. Algae and other marine growths accumulate on the structure, providing something to nibble on. But most impressive is the size of the fish that gather here. The one that got away. In winter, when the yakka are in number, larger fish arrive in shoals under the pipe, like these stocky brown sweetlips, each about 40 to 60 centimetres in length. But these aren't the biggest fish around here. Mulloway, reaching about a metre in length, often circle these waters under the pipe. The indigenous word mulloway means the greatest one. Another common name for these fish is jewfish, because of the white jewel-like spots along their side. Under the pipe lurks an even bigger fish. The mighty Queensland groper. This one is only a little one, over a metre long and probably nearing 100 kilograms in weight. Local divers regularly see them under here, and the monster fish have become quite inquisitive. Despite their large size, they blend in quite well here. The mottled brown pattern matches the texture of the pipe. You might think all these smaller fish would be in danger of being eaten by the groper. That can happen, but when the groper isn't hunting, it's actually quite safe for the yakka to swarm near the monster fish. The intimidating groper keeps other predatory fish from approaching too close, which means the yakka are protected. For the groper, there probably isn't much benefit having these little fish hanging around, other than maybe tidying up food scraps from its messy eating. But the fish are no harm either. This type of symbiotic relationship is called commensalism, a positive outcome for one species and a neutral outcome for the other. Not all man-made structures are beneficial for wildlife, but this one is, and will continue to provide shelter and food sources for many years to come. God created the great sea creatures, and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm, according to their kinds, and every winged bird, according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Beneath the surface, there is so much to explore. All sorts of different creatures. Sharks with eyebrows. Purple sea slugs. Transparent jellies. Fish lined with diamonds. And birds that swim. God made many created kinds, and within those kinds, the genetic potential for very diverse creatures. Our underwater world is simply breathtaking. Even so, something isn't quite right. Death and suffering plague our world both above and below the surface. All because of our sin. Knowing this, God planned ahead by equipping creatures to survive, with claws and shells, and even stingers. But that's not the end of the story. There will be a new creation, with no more death and suffering, when predator and prey will be at peace. Thank you, God, for your amazing creation. Thank you for the colours, or your carefully thought out designs. Thank you for preserving so much of the beauty of your original creation. Thank you for designing protection mechanisms, and thank you for your protection over us. We praise you for your underwater creation. It fills our hearts with wonder and awe. Thank you for your Son Jesus, who ventured through the valley of death so we could be saved, so that we may spend eternity with him in a new creation with no death or suffering. Thank you, God, for this underwater adventure. G'day, it's Michael here from Fishy Ecosystems. Thank you so much for watching the underwater adventure. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends, people you know. In the video, I made some interesting points about God's creation, and that included created kinds and genetic variation, and also the fall of Adam and Eve and how that led to death in the world. There's a bit more to these ideas, and I couldn't fit it all in a documentary, so I've actually put some links in the description below to a website called creation.com. I actually work for this company, and they've got many articles that explain some of these issues to do with Bible and science and history. So I'd encourage you to read them when you get the time. Also, if you'd like to financially support the work I'm doing with these documentaries that I'm making, I've actually put a link down below called Buy Me a Coffee, and you can donate using that link, and that comes straight to me. So I'd really appreciate that if you've got the means to do that. Finally, if you enjoyed that and you're looking for something else to watch, I've actually made another documentary. I did that about a year ago. It's called The Underwater World. I'm going to put a link to it here. You can just click on that video and you'll be able to watch that straight away. Cheers. See ya.